Hello everyone, I welcome you to today's finance series with me, Oyekemi Ajayi. I will be speaking on purchase order processing. The focus of today's presentation is really around compliance checkpoints and approvals to ensure timely processing of your purchase order within the organization. But before we go into the various checkpoints, the very first thing is, what are the steps involved in purchase order processing? Number one, ensure that there is a requisition note from the request department stating the various items, quantity, value, the volumes of items that they intend to purchase. The second is to send a quotation to multiple vendors, at least 3 vendors, so that you can have various options to select from. Then you receive the proposals from these vendors. The next thing you need to do is set evaluation criteria that you will use to assess these vendors. Once you assess them based on the criteria that you have set, identify the ones that have performed very well. After you set criteria, the next is for you to evaluate these vendors and then select the vendor that suits your needs as an organization. Once you've selected a vendor, negotiate the terms and conditions with the vendor and then contract. For some organizations, as said in previous presentations, they have an SLA, a service level agreement, between the organization and the vendor. Once this is done, the next phase is to authorize the invoice for payment. As said in previous presentation, we talked about 3-way match for your invoice, your purchase order, and your goods received note. And then once you ensure that the proper thing has been done with respect to invoice, you now pay the vendor for the goods and services that have already been delivered to your organization. Check for quality, ensure that you have the right quality for your products delivered within a reasonable time as agreed with the vendor. Once this is in place, there are certain checkpoints or certain controls that needs to be implemented in your purchase order process within the organization. The very first is a requisition note must be issued for all items to be purchased within the organization, and this requisition note must be approved from the department that is requesting for the items to be purchased. Now, where the items are very small or they are petty, what you can do is to consider batching all the items together and then issue a requisition note for all the items. Where it is very urgent and cannot wait, an email requesting for authorization or approval of these items may be considered. The second step is to obtain authorization for the purchase order. The next is for you to match the invoices that you've gotten from the vendors with the purchase order within the organization. Remember when we talked about our 3-way match? And the next step is also to limit access to the supplier's database within the organization. So not everyone within the organization should have access to that database in order to prevent any instance of any form of malpractice that may happen with suppliers' details within the organization. And then you should also have someone from your internal audit or your internal control department that oversees these activities, one with respect to the authorization and approvals of the purchase order. Another is also with respect to the management of the database for your vendors. Another is also with respect to the entire process from initiation of the request up until approvals and then payments of the items and the receipt of those items within the organization. I hope this has been very helpful, and I hope you are able to instill some of these checkpoints in your process in order to reduce the occurrence of fraud or any form of malpractice within the organization. Thank you so much for your time. I really hope this presentation was quite informative. Do have a great one. Thank you.